10 9 8 7 6 5 4 3 2 1 إطلاق.
في أناس عندها الهمم لتنال القمم، ناس عندها الهمم وتوصل القمم والفضاء وتعانق الأجواء.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our first day of our first pre-Expo program. My name is Anaoli Blanco, and what you just saw was a sneak peek of our Aluaso Space Show, something that will bring to life our colossal dome on event time evenings across the 6 months of Expo. I will be your host for a day that we hope will provoke both thought and action. Thought, because that topic that we are all here to discuss, which is space, carries such significant implication for the future of every one of us here on Earth. And action, because what we shape over these next 2 days will form the backbone of the conversations we take forward into our Event Time Space Week, which will run from October 3rd to 9th, 2021. Everything we want to achieve together at Expo in this sector, that journey starts today. And thank you for all of you joining us via our website and broadcast link from all over the world to watch us take these first steps. Later on today, we will repeat our forthcoming sessions to allow as many participants as possible from around the world to join us and benefit from what should be an informative and very exciting agenda. It helps, of course, that space is such an evocative and endlessly fascinating subject. Tomorrow, we will hear from many more of our participants who are making remarkable strides in advancing our understanding of space and the application that understanding might have for life on Earth. Today, though, you will hear a bit more from us. How are we approaching Space Week? The kind of programming that we have planned, and how can you play a vital role come event time? Across both days, though, we ask you to please keep the questions coming. Of us, of your fellow participants and partners, of the panelists. We want you to go away with a clear picture of what you would like to achieve and how exactly you would like to go about that. To begin our day, I'd like to introduce our keynote speakers. First of which is Her Excellency Rima Al-Hashimi, Director General of Expo 2020 Dubai and UAE Minister of State for International Cooperation. Shortly after, we will hear from Her Excellency Sara Al-Almidi, UAE Minister of State for Advanced Technology, Chairwoman of the UAE Space Agency, and Science Lead for the Emirates Mars Mission.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, thank you for joining us today for the first in our series of pre-Expo programs. I'm so excited to welcome you to these sessions because the content and conversations with which you will engage over the course of today and tomorrow are our first shared moments of Expo programming in action. We begin our dialogue now, more than a year before we will welcome visitors on site. And what we achieve now and over the course of this entire pre-Expo series will enhance and make significantly more impactful the eventual event time experience. As we gather today to contemplate the incredible mystery and opportunity of space, my mind is drawn surely and proudly to the successful launch of the Emirates Mars mission in July of this year. The Arab world's first interplanetary mission, the Hope Probe, was named in part for the aspiration that its success would reflect and underscore the leadership in science, in technology, and in exploration that has for centuries been the domain of the Arab world. That we will hear today from influential voices and brilliant minds from all over the globe is a tribute to the convening power of a world exposition. In a few moments, we will hear from Her Excellency, my dear colleague and friend, Sara Al-Amiri, Chairwoman of the UAE Space Agency and the UAE Minister of State for Advanced Technology, and that we are joined by so many eminent Emirati speakers and panelists suggests that while there is still much to do, our aspirations may not be entirely out of this world. The extraordinary breadth of expertise that has gathered for this online event is reflective of the rich contributions so many of our international participants and our partners are bringing to the field of space exploration. It is also reflective of the fact that the understanding of space is a growing priority for all of us here on this earth today. Those fortunate few who have had the opportunity to look down on this planet from space have often remarked how small the Earth is, even in all its glory, when set against the vast majesty of the universe. And as we find Earth's finite resources pushed increasingly to their limits, so it is natural that we turn with renewed urgency to that which is seemingly without limit. In the halcyon days of the original space race, in the early days of the United Arab Emirates, we explored because we could. Half a century later, as we near the occasion of the UAE Golden Jubilee, we explore because we must. Nations, large and small, economies developed and emerging, are today taking their first steps among the tapestry of stars overhead, whether we are searching for biosignals in the upper atmosphere of Venus, or grappling with the almost impenetrable unknowns of black hole radiation. We are doing it not just for the human joy in scientific discovery, but in the hope and expectation that these learnings will positively impact our lives on Earth and beyond. These gains must be shared because any failure to address key challenges will be felt universally. Our interconnectedness makes us stronger and simultaneously more vulnerable to shocks. In the areas of climate change, food security, water management, and much more, our understanding has the potential to be reshaped by what we learn from the sky above, whether through the study of carbon dioxide levels in the Earth's atmosphere or the intelligent application of satellite data for the benefit of agricultural development, or through advances in water purification that brings space station technology to villages in sub-Saharan Africa. Those participants who will join us over the next couple of days will speak to the myriad ways in which the exploration of space is helping us to better understand our own planet and also our place on it. When I hear Sweden's plans to demonstrate how space can help contribute to Agenda 2030, from future food production to fighting the poaching of endangered species, or when the United States explains how for decades it has been maximizing the scientific return of soil and rock samples from the moon, or when South Africa, Italy, Portugal, and so many others highlight the remarkable work that they are doing for the benefit of science and humanity, I am reassured that cooperation and collaboration are the tenets by which our shared mission will succeed. Nobody can do this alone. Nobody needs to do this alone, and none of us is alone. Another 50 years from now, on the occasion of the UAE centenary, let us reflect that we used this era to race not against one another, but for the benefit of ourselves and each other. Ladies and gentlemen, please, I urge you to engage eagerly over the coming days. Use this platform to advance your priorities and enhance your understanding of others. Tell us how you want to take your areas of interest, and through our pre-event series and event time specialist program, let us discover and build this out together. Thank you all for your time and for your attention.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first pre-Expo session discussing space and collaboration. During the pandemic of this year, collaboration has increased significantly between people from different backgrounds and different nations. It truly was an endeavor during a very dark time on connecting minds, connecting thoughts, and linking people from various geographic locations to achieve great change. This was the case for us on the Emirates Mars mission. The Emirates Mars mission is an internationally collaborated mission that had engineers working from the Emirates, the United States, together with a launch service provider out of Japan. During the pandemic, we had to react very fast so that we were able to get our spacecraft to the launch site in Japan. That required collaboration for people who were completely in lockdown across 3 different countries to achieve this feat. Our team worked tirelessly to get this mission to launch on the launch window provided. And today, it has crossed more than a third of its journey of hope, creating possibilities for a new future focused on technology and science. 2021 for the Emirates will provide us for the very first time with an opportunity to analyze and study another planet, with instruments developed by our own engineers and scientists and researchers, to be able to push and contribute towards knowledge generated. And I hope that during Expo 2021, we can share with you the wonderful understanding of climate change on a planet that was one day very similar to ours. I look forward to meeting everyone in Dubai next year, to be able to further discuss the importance of collaboration to drive science, the importance of diversity to transform technological advancements, and the importance of collaboration to stimulate development forward across all industries and sectors. I hope you all benefit from the virtual pre-Expo sessions, and that can stimulate thought and discussion during Expo 2021.
Thank you so much, Your Excellencies, for taking the time to speak with us today. I honestly cannot imagine how stressful it would have been preparing for a launch in any normal year, let alone in the eye of a pandemic. So it's truly inspiring to hear how nations and organizations came together to achieve this incredible milestone. And it's a living example, of course, of the kind of collaboration that Her Excellency Hrim Al-Hashimi has just referred to a few moments ago. At this moment, I would like to hand over to my colleague, Shabana Tirmisi, Deputy Head of the Expo Specialist Program, to outline what we can expect during the course of Event Time Space Week in October 2021. We will then share a special video on the work of a Nigerian mixed artist, Dennis Osadebe, followed by a preview of Spacewalk Visitors Journey. And then we will open for a Q&A on everything in regards to Space Week and the Specialist Program. Shabanu.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished delegates. Thank you so much for joining us for our Expo Space Week 2020 and for what we hope will be an interesting selection of sessions around our Expo question on space. How can we safely and productively explore new frontiers? This is an open question, and deliberately so. In this session, I'd like to add a little structure to our Expo response to that question. Our role is to facilitate a dialogue and be the venue for discussions, connections that will hopefully lead to concrete outcomes for you. We'd like you to walk away from this session with three key things. 1, updates on our space program. 2, a how-to guide if you're interested in participating but have not yet told us. And 3, an update on each other's program as it relates to the field of space. But before we do that, I'd like to quickly update you on the development of our theme weeks since we saw you last at the virtual IPM in August. It's important for me to stress at this point that this pre-Expo event program is not simply a teaser of what will happen during event time theme weeks. What we do today and tomorrow will directly impact the shape and scope of our event time theme weeks. We need to know as soon as possible, please, what you're interested in working with us on, whether that's in the form of co-curation or participation, by way of proposing speakers or content. But time is of the essence. Our specialist program is designed to reflect your priorities. And if we do not see strong subscription to some of these events that we're proposing, then perhaps we will not be able to go forward and these may not take place as we won't have sight of your priorities. We're thrilled to confirm that Expo Space Week will be delivered in association with the UAE Space Agency. Their leadership and contribution to the space sector is truly significant, and we look forward to learning more during the UAE Space Panel tomorrow. Over the next few minutes, I'd like to quickly go through the list of events that Expo is planning to host and co-curate during Space Week at Expo in October 2021 under each of our 5 program pillars. And this is essentially what the week looks like. Here are the events under each of the 5 series, which I'd like you to quickly walk through now. Our Build Bridges series. Under this pillar, we'll be curating a conversation on the role of astronomical knowledge in indigenous cultures as part of a thematic weekly program called Cultures in Conversation. This event will be co-led by Australia, along with Mali and Peru as panelists, and it'll be hosted in the Australian Pavilion. You'll get to hear more about Australia's plans tomorrow, so do stay tuned. The Flip Your Worldview series will dispel myths about space, and you'll get a glimpse of this shortly. The Women's Pavilion program will showcase accounts of women in Arabia and Islam in astronomy and space. Earlier today, you had the chance to hear from Her Excellency Sara Al-Amiri, a pioneering voice in the UAE, and a great example of what you can expect from our women-focused events. Moving on to Leave No One Behind. Our flagship people-focused event, The People's Mission, will spotlight the role of citizens in space exploration. In our Multiplier Effect event, we'll be looking at the use of space tools for inclusive development, such as the use of remote sensing to map hunger and water hotspots, so that policymakers and service providers are able to make better decisions and manage resources in a more effective manner. Women in Development will look at the role of women as agents of change in the space sector. UNUSA's Women in Space program will feature during this event, as well as the space missions of many countries where women are taking the lead and championing change. The UAE, Australia, Hungary, South Africa, and Sweden, amongst others. The Expo Live Tech for Good series will demonstrate how grassroots technology can improve our lives, specifically honing in on the space sector for this week. Our Thrive Together series, which we know has been generating a lot of interest amongst you guys, will feature the thematic business forum in space. This will be co-curated with several countries, including India and Namibia. Moving on to our Live in Balance series, the World Majlis on the race to secure space will be curated with India and Switzerland. Our Expo Live programming series, Man in Nature, will address sustainability through the lens of cohabitating with nature, and our Sustainability at Expo series is being designed with India, Luxembourg, and Namibia. The Vision 2071 pillar event space where the world comes together is being designed in collaboration with Italy, Canada, and the UK. We also have a number of slots open for the Best Practice Area program. So please quickly sign up so you can come and talk about your space solutions for development. This will be an opportunity for you to talk about how Earth observation and geolocation is supporting achievement of the SDGs, or how a project from your country that uses space-based services is key in understanding climate change and disaster risk management. Events that you all know these events well, and that many of you have already expressed your interest to co-curate and participate. We've had a number of wonderful conversations with you during our office hours, and we thank all of you who've been so proactive in working with us already. Russia, Japan, Mozambique, Portugal, Gabon, the US, and Luxembourg. We know you'll be actively engaged in these events across Space Week. And of course, the UAE Space Agency will be our key partner in delivering these events with Expo for you. While the program pack is available for reference, we'd like to specifically ask you to look at page 7 for how you can plug in, whether that's by co-curation or participation, and pages 15 to 41 on all the events across our theme weeks. We're working at the moment on translating the program pack into Arabic for you, and hopefully soon it will be available for access on the Expo portal. I'd like to now bring your attention to the dates of Space Week during Expo event time. Currently, we have scheduled our Space Week to align with the World Space Week, which, as per the UN General Assembly, takes place during the 4th to the 10th of October every year. However, we're also aware that in 2021, Dubai will welcome the 72nd International Astronautical Congress from the 25th to the 29th of October, hosted by the UAE's Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center. For the very first time, the IAC will open its doors to the general space community in the United Arab Emirates, the first Arab country to host the IAC since its establishment in 1950. This event typically attracts more than 6,000 participants each year, and with the theme Inspire, Innovate, and Discover for the benefit of humankind, the IAC 2021 looks forward to making a contribution to humanity and to science by strengthening and enhancing cooperation between all countries in the space sector. Recognizing that many of you are already planning to bring your high-level space sector delegations to attend the IAC, we'd like to poll your interest in whether our Space Week should align with the IAC instead of the World Space Week. If we were to move Space Week to the later date, closer in alignment with IAC, we would have to bring Climate and Biodiversity Week forward to avoid the obvious clash. So Climate and Biodiversity Week would run from the 3rd to the 9th of October, while Space Week would move to the 17th to the 23rd of October, 2021. So essentially, we'd swap the 2 weeks as they currently stand. This question should now be on your screens. So please use the poll icon towards the bottom of your screen to cast your vote. And we'll come back to you with your collective decision in the Q&A session after this, once all the votes are in. So please start polling. Thank you for polling. So that leaves me with a final call to action. As we work on confirming our Event Time Space Week content in the coming days and weeks, please do reach out to us and let us know which events you're interested in so we can start working with you on these. Please also bear in mind that if these events are undersubscribed, then they will be removed from the program. So please do not delay. Reach out to us, let us know if you're interested, so you can get involved and we can start moving forward. I'd like to just quickly draw your attention to this slide again on your screens. You have all our contact details there. contact us, sign up for office hour slots, and we look forward to speaking to you. Again, thank you very much for your time. We'll move on to our Q&A session shortly, but for now, I'd like to introduce you to my colleague, Hindal Boom.
Thank you, Shabano. Lots to think about for sure. I'm delighted now to welcome Nigerian mixed media artist Dennis Osadebe to demonstrate the power of imagination in understanding the future of exploration.
What is thinking about the future without imagination? Imagination is not only an intrinsic desire by humans to envisage alternate realities. To me, it is everything. It is as essential to my work as it is to life. It is how I create shapes, forms, scenes, characters, and narratives, and how I combine my lived experience with conceptualized elements to fulfill my intention of imagining a new world and a new future through art. Art forms life through us. The artists or the viewers are influenced by the use of their imagination, whether it is through picking up a paintbrush, creating an image from the mind, or allowing our imagination to create narrative upon viewing an artwork. To understand its meaning and purpose, we must understand that no two experiences of art are the same. Art performs as a vehicle for us to bring the most complex and untapped ideas into existence, allowing us to tell intricate stories in simple and poetic ways. However, it also permits us to understand the critical questions in our current world, such as climate change, artificial intelligence, and space exploration. The interesting thing is that art democratizes these topics by allowing everybody to be able to understand, engage, and navigate them, creating an accessible platform for learning and growth through a visual approach. Utilizing arts and creativity brings different groups of people together, thus helping identify problems previously unknown. I believe that discovering problems is also sourcing potential. When I create, I'm not particularly keen on making things or objects that are consensually beautiful. I want to make art that spurs cultural shifts, divides opinions, and quells mindless unanimity. We find ourselves in a time which is arguably the most revolutionary period humanity has ever experienced. We have unlimited access to unique tools and technology like nanosatellites, artificial intelligence, augmented and virtual reality, even commercial rockets. What we need to work in conjunction with this ever-developing technology to be able to explore it to its full potential is artists. We must allow all of this pioneering technology and engineering to be put to use by artists so that in turn, the technology is then contextualized for universal appreciation, understanding, and application. Tools are abundant in the world, and with imagination, we can productively harness our minds to perceive what the future will look like. The true essence of art is its ability to visualize human requirements for mankind to progress. I believe that imagination is our greatest hope for survival. It is the tool that will guide us through ever-changing times.
A huge thank you to Dennis for sharing his work with us today. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished delegates, I've had the pleasure of working with you, our international participants, for a number of years now. So it's a real privilege to be here today to show you a little about how we plan to bring your priorities to the attention of our millions of visitors on site. On screen now, you can see our space content map. which we shared in the build-up to this event, and reflects the remarkable breadth of participants that have expressed an interest in content and programming around the space sector at Expo 2020 Dubai. We'll be hearing from some of those countries and organizations in the next 2 days. But with 42 participants planning to spotlight their unique contributions to aerospace, to astronomy and observation, to satellite data and communication, and to space industry at Expo, we want our visitors to recognize, appreciate, and better understand our commonalities, shared experiences, and priorities. One exciting way in which we will do this is through the offering of visitor journeys. Expo is in the process of developing bespoke, pre-packaged visitor journeys that will be made available on the Expo app for all visitors. These journeys will enable visitors to experience the site through key themes, from food security to water to education, the blue economy, and sustainable tourism, that in a large number of instances reflect and resonate with the subjects that are focused on in our specialist thematic calendar. Today, I'd like to take you through our space journey, which we are calling our Space Walk, that will be available via the app during event time, and which takes visitors to countries and organizations across 5 continents. Our intrepid explorers will start by selecting the journey on their smart device. They can start their adventure at any point on that journey and follow any pavilion order that they like. Although, of course, we will offer them a curated route that minimizes the amount of time they spend walking between pavilions, so that they can spend more time with the content that they've come to seek out and experience. So let's run through some of the highlights of our journey, and each will be familiar to some of you in the audience, as this is your content we're showcasing for our millions of visitors. We're still looking at the operational on-site requirements of each journey, but at this point, I can show you, by district, some of the amazing content you are building and stories you are telling about your contribution to humanity's shared understanding of space. We'll start in the Opportunity District with the India Pavilion, where visitors can engage with an immersive space technology exhibit that will showcase the Indian space program, satellite communications, human spaceflight initiatives, the benefits of space technology for telemedicine and military defense, remote sensing for natural resource management, and commercial opportunities in space exploration. At the Luxembourg Pavilion, we learn about the nation's pioneering work in satellite communications and how it became one of the most active centers for space in Europe. We also hear about the Grand Duchy's efforts to define an attractive overall framework for the development of space companies and its ambitions regarding the future exploration and utilization of space resources. The future hub of the Kazakhstan Pavilion resembles a spaceship structure and showcases pioneering technologies and scientific advancements. The main attraction in the pavilion, titled Unlimited Space, will offer visitors a unique 270-degree show that demonstrates an interaction between humans and artificial intelligence. Also in the Opportunity District, the United Kingdom Pavilion has a strong space theme. The design of the pavilion itself is inspired by one of Professor Stephen Hawking's final projects, Breakthrough Message, exploring what humanity might communicate to other advanced civilizations. The UK's program will explore a time in the future in which space travel and tourism is common, with international collaboration from global leaders from multiple industries. Program development is ongoing, involving the UK Space Agency and UK Space. Close by, in the communication zone of the Omani Pavilion, visitors will encounter Omani seafarers of the past and the explorers of the present and future who are pushing the boundaries of travel by air into space. Moving into the Mobility District, Australia will showcase ancient indigenous techniques of night sky navigation and their uses by modern astronomers. Visitors will marvel at the revolutionary Square Kilometre Array, or SKA, and its precursor instruments, the Murchison Wide Field Array and Australian SKA Pathfinder. Co-hosted by Australia and South Africa, the SKA will be the world's largest and most sensitive radio telescope. already driving progress in information technology and high-performance computing, it will push the boundaries of our knowledge of the physical laws of the universe and allow us to uncover the mysteries of its first billion years. Also in mobility, space exploration and aerospace will be a central theme of the Canadian Pavilion, where a theater experience will take visitors to outer space, showcasing projects including SciSat, Canadarm3, RadarSat Constellation Mission, NeoSat, M3MSat, Curiosity Rover, and the OSIRIS-REx Laser Altimeter, a laser system able to scan the surface of an asteroid from up to 7 kilometers away. At the UAE University Pavilion, visitors will learn how the institution, through its Pathfinders program, is engaging youth in developing solutions to expand life and address space-related challenges. And finally, in the Sustainability District, the Gabon Pavilion will feature the work of its National Space Agency, which launched in 2010 with the main objective of collecting space-related data to be used for environmental protection around deforestation and land use. These are just a few of our potential stops on our spacewalk. Others include Belarus's Forest of Future Technology, showcasing that nation's innovative advancements in space research. Portugal's pavilion highlights aerospace as a strategic theme, in particular, a dynamic mural showcasing clusters and key facts, companies and collaborative R&D projects. Portugal also focuses on space-climate-ocean interactions, especially on the Atlantic and its socio-economic exploitation. New Zealand's pavilion will profile its dynamic ecosystem of advanced companies, including an innovative aerospace and satellite manufacturing firm, while the Swiss pavilion takes you on a journey through Switzerland, from bucolic nature into an urban hub for scientific research and innovation, with a focus in Space Week on advancing the future of sustainable space exploration. As you can see, our participants are bringing so many of the wonders of human technological advancements to our Expo. And our journey need not be limited to what we've outlined today. Reach out to us and let us know how your pavilion can feature in this extraordinary on-site adventure. I hope you've enjoyed this session and a brief look at the exciting plans we have to highlight your amazing content on site at Expo. To talk about the specialist program, about how to contribute to Event Time Space Week, and make the absolute most of this platform for collaboration and innovation, I would now like to call upon our Q&A panel, which will be moderated by Nadia Verchi, Chief of Staff at Expo 2020 Dubai. The panel is here to answer any question at all that you might have. All you need to do is go to the Q&A icon on your screen and type your question. Nadia?
Thank you, Hind. It's wonderful to be back with you again. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you've enjoyed the program so far. It's now time to answer all our international participant and official partners' questions on progress we've made since we last met at the IPM in August. On our panel today will be some familiar faces from our Expo team, and we will no doubt discuss some familiar themes too. That's because the whole specialist program has been built in close collaboration and consultation with you, our participants and partners. This pre-event Space Week has been propelled by the remarkable work you are doing all around the world, more of which you will hear about tomorrow when we hand the spotlight to you, our international participants, with a range of space programs and priorities. Right now, it's your chance to ask questions that you may have about what you've just heard or what you may have read about in our specialist program information pack. We refer to the pack for everything we're doing, so I would like to draw your attention back to it as a key reference guide. But before we start to answer your questions, and while I introduce my colleagues on this panel today, we'd like to ask you some questions so that we can test our shared understanding of space. What do we know, or what do we think we know about space? Some of you may remember from our international participants meeting in November last year, the work that we are doing with the Gapminder Foundation to flip worldviews, dismantle global misperceptions, and help us all to foster deeper global connections and understanding. And in collaboration with Gapminder, we have 3 questions we would like to ask you today. Please use the poll icon towards the bottom of your screen to cast your vote. Here are the first of our 3 questions. How many countries have satellites in orbit around the Earth? The options are 13, 43, or 83. How many countries have satellites in orbit around the Earth? The options are 13, 43, or 83. Please submit your answers now while I introduce my colleagues, Shabanu Tirmizi, who you already know given her presentation a few moments ago, and also Khalid Sharaf, who is leading our Expo business program. Welcome to the floor, Shabanu and Khalid. Has everyone answered the first question? Great. Here's question 2. People from how many different countries have been on board the International Space Station? The options are 19, 59, or 99. People from how many different countries have been on board the International Space Station? The options are 19, 59, or 99. While you ponder that question, I would like to invite Abby Sweats, who works with our invaluable commercial partners to aid their participation in content and programming, and Hind Alawais, who is our Vice President of Participant Management and who oversees our Women's Pavilion, as well as our work with our non-official participants and international organizations. Welcome to the floor. Our third question is as follows. How many of the 8 planets in our solar system have our spacecraft visited? How many have they flown by? The options are 2, 5, and 8. To repeat, how many of the 8 planets in our solar system have our spacecraft visited? How many have they flown by? The options are 2, 5, and 8. And while you answer that last question, I am delighted to introduce our final 2 panelists, Yusuf Keres, who is the Senior Vice President of our Expo Live program, which has completed 5 grant cycles, received more than 11,000 applications from around the world, and is now funding 140 social innovators in 76 countries across 14 sectors. And Dr. Federica Busa is Senior Vice President of our Visitor Experience and our World Majlis series. More on that later. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Now, let's take a look at the answers to the questions we posed. How well does our audience know space? The first question was, how many countries have satellites in orbit around the Earth? The options were 13, 43, or 83. The answer is in fact 83. So what proportion of our audience got that right? 9% of our audience got that right. So I hope over the course of the next couple of days, our collective knowledge about space will grow. Our second question, people from how many different countries have been on board the International Space Station? The options were 19, 59, or 99. And the answer is 19. So what proportion of our audience went for the right answer? The majority. That's fabulous. And our final question, how many of the 8 planets in our solar system have our spacecraft visited? And how many have they flown by? The options are 2, 5, and 8. And the answer is 8. So how did our audience do on this last question? The majority of our audience said 2. Well, now it's your turn to ask the questions. All you need to do is go to the Q&A icon on your screen and type in your questions. Please state which country or which organization you're from, because then we'll be able to recognize you and we'll be able to do our best to cover everything that you raised today. Before we start taking some questions and as they come in, I'd like to just pass the floor to Khalid for a couple of minutes to update us on where we are with our Expo business program and what we need from you. Khalid?
Thank you, Nadia. Thank you all for joining us today. So as Shahbanu mentioned in her presentation, every thematic week is going to have a business forum, as many of you know, as part of our program offering from the business perspective. We have been getting a lot of excitement from the international participants. We had a number of expressions of interest for participation and co-curation, which is exciting, and we urge you to speeding up the process. Let us know if you're interested, if you haven't so yet. And from a product perspective, we told you that we will be launching the Expo B2B app in January. It's going to go live in January, and we will come to you in November to start building your profiles as international participants. And I'm happy to say that we are ready. 4 weeks before scheduled. We would like to start building your profiles now. And we have asked you through your country managers to give us a point of contact to start creating your profiles for the B2B app. And I'd urge you all, for those who have not, almost half of you have already given us your points of contact. I'd like to urge the rest of you to do so, because we would like to conduct the training for you to create the profile to create and design your profiles on the app for the viewers to see once we go live. And finally, last but not least, we also provided an update that on your National Day, you will have an optional country briefing where you could utilize the presence of the high dignitaries from the government and the private sector during your National Day to conduct an investment / trade and business forum. On that front, we have not gotten a lot of feedback. So I urge you all, if you are interested, if you would like to conduct, and I'm sure a lot of you do, from my conversations over the years with all the participants, that it is important to conduct such a platform during your National Day. So I urge you all, please connect with your country managers if you haven't so yet, and let's start that dialogue and start planning well in advance. Time is not really on our side. We need to start planning well in advance for you to really benefit from these products and platforms that we're offering on a business front. So back to you, Nadia.
Great, thank you so much, Khalid. So I think a really strong rallying cry and a call to action for us. Shabanu, could I just ask you to spend a little bit more time telling us about the specialist program status and what our audience needs to do to get involved?
Of course, Nadia. We've had a lot of exciting conversations with many of you, and we look forward to having more. As we mentioned a little while ago, where we see high subscription, we're of course going to go ahead and plan these events with great excitement. And for events where we don't see very high subscription, we may unfortunately have to drop those events, because as Nadia clearly emphasized, this program is supposed to be a reflection of your priorities. And we want to focus our attention and our efforts on topics, areas, and events that you are interested in. So please, we have been reaching out to you through your country managers, and we've been having conversations in office hours with many of you. We've given you examples in the presentation earlier on countries that have confirmed participation in events. Either that's through co-curation, so taking a more lead role in conceptualizing an event end to end, or participation through the way of presenting a speaker or a case study. And we really urge you again, I'd like to repeat what Khalid said and tell you that time is of essence. And we'd love to hear from you as soon as possible on what you'd like to do during event time, because the way we've designed the pre-expo program is to be a reflection of what we will be doing during the event. So as we move forward and we have confirmations from you on which events you want to co-curate with us or participate in, then those will be what will be reflected in the pre-expo series. We had hoped to receive all our subscriptions for Space Week ahead of this virtual session. That's the timeline that we'll be keeping in mind for each week as we go along. In about 2 weeks' time, we will be sharing with you an updated information pack, which we refer to over and over again because it's got all our details on how you can plug in on page 7 and what you can do from pages 15 to 45. Page 15 and 16 specifically look at the events that we're going to be putting on for you for Space Week. So that in a nutshell is where we're at and what we'd like to do with you. So please get in touch with us. We're excited. We're hoping to move on forward with these conversations and lock in your participation as soon as possible.
Great, thank you so much, Shabanu. I think we've had a question that's come in from our partners. So if I could just pass the floor to Abby to build on what Shabanu said and talk a little bit more about how our commercial partners can get involved. Is that the same mechanism, format, way of engaging as the international participants in the nations and the international organizations, or is there anything specific that they need to be aware of, Abby?
Sure, thanks a lot, Nadia. So we're very, very excited to plug in our commercial partners across the whole of the 6-month specialist program event series. And so what's happening right now is that I'm liaising with all the different departments underneath our specialist program, which includes the Women's Pavilion, Expo Live, World Majlis, the Expo Business Program that Khalid talked about. And I'm crafting bespoke proposals for each of the commercial partners that highlights a sort of menu of options where we feel as a team that these commercial partners can add value across the different events. This process started in early September and will continue through early November. So if you haven't heard from me yet, you'll hear from me very soon. And once you receive that proposal, it really starts an iterative process where we go back and forth and we discuss whether you want to add programs or maybe take some away. And our sort of target date is that by the end of Q4 2020, we want to have all of the partners confirmed across the different events. We'd like to have speakers assigned and also any content, so like best practice projects or other kind of content that you want to contribute to these programs, all confirmed. So thank you again, and you can reach out to me at any time. And if you haven't heard from me, you'll hear from me soon. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Abby. We've had a question come in specifically for Hind Al Awais on the Women's Pavilion. I think there's some curiosity about, well, what will the Women's Pavilion be? And then perhaps more specifically, Hind, how will it address the topic of space that kickstarts our entire Expo program? Hind, over to you.
Thank you, Nadia, and I'm so pleased to be here with all of you again. The Women's Pavilion is an Expo pavilion in collaboration with Cartier. We are hoping to address a very important issue when it comes to gender equality and women's empowerment, which is our perspective, and creating an understanding of the centrality and the impact that women play in their societies, in their communities. And so under the theme of new perspectives, what we hope to leave our visitors with, those who engage with us, is a new perspective that confirms and leaves us with a new understanding that when women thrive, all of humanity thrives. On the question of how our participating countries or IOs or NOPs or partners can work with us in the Women's Pavilion, you are all welcome to do so. We have identified a series of panel discussions that we will host. Women in Development will be a running series across all our thematic weeks where, as Shabanu had mentioned, we will look at women as agents of change in the Global Sustainable Development Agenda. And we encourage you to come to us, start a conversation, and create that parameter of the discussion that we would bring. Women in Arabia and Islam is another series that we will host in the Women's Pavilion. And that, of course, is something that we are very proud to host. And we also look forward, if you have ideas, input, we are happy to discuss and take this forward with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hind. Tomorrow, Hind will be moderating a panel on women in space with some really esteemed space industry leaders. And so please take a look at our program for tomorrow and come back and join us for that if you're particularly interested in the women in space angle. So the next question that has come in is a broader question, but it's also, we're not sure who it's from. So as you do submit your questions, please make sure that you put your organization, your country, your entity name, and your personal name so that we can identify you. The question is with regards to innovation. So innovation is a cross-cutting theme across all of our different weeks at Expo, because we didn't feel that innovation was outside of anything that is traditionally part of a World Expo. So the question is, more specifically, to elaborate a little bit more on innovation as a cross-cutting theme around the subject of space. So I'll pass the floor to Shabanu to take that.
Thank you, Nadia. Similar to all our theme weeks where innovation cuts across as a cross-cutting aspect, it's very much part and center of the space theme, but possibly even more so than the rest given the nature of the topic. And if maybe if we just look at a couple of events within that week, when we look at the role of citizens in space exploration and the sector of space, there's innovative ways where governments, entities, NGOs are engaging citizens and civil society in informing how space is a more inclusive topic, how it's explored in a more sustainable manner, and information from remote sensing and other space-based technologies and methods are used in a more inclusive way, for instance. If we move on to our multiplier effect event, which is looking at using space tools for inclusive development, and there were a number of examples that Her Excellency spoke about in her talk, that we spoke about earlier in the presentations, which look at how we can harness technologies to be able to map hunger hotspots, water security, mitigate deforestation. So a lot of innovative aspects, looking at law and governance of space, looking at the tools that we're using, and looking at the systems and infrastructure, institutional infrastructure that we're creating around these. So you'll see innovation cut across, and we've got Yusuf on this panel, who looks after our in-house Global Innovators program. And as you know, that is, it's innovation and coming from all parts of the world. So you'll also hear from and be able to see when you come to the Expo, a lot of innovative solutions and approaches from our global entrepreneurs working across different sectors, including space.
Great, thank you very much for that, Shabanu. Another question has come in specifically with regards to the World Majlis. And so I'd like to pass the floor for a few minutes to Federica to elaborate a little bit more on the World Majlis's plans, programs, initiatives, more broadly, but also with regards to space. So Dr. Federica, over to you.
Thank you, Nadia, and hello to everyone who's joining us from across the world. We know many of you have already been part of the World Majlis journey so far. For those who may not be completely familiar with this program, it is a series of conversations about the important themes that are at the heart of Expo 2020, which we want to bring to the general public and to our future visitors to discuss and talk about the big questions and challenges that we need to consider together. And in the spirit of the traditional Majlis and of our theme Connecting Minds, it really brings together views and ideas from academic, from government, from artists and companies, medias, as well as students. It's a program that is definitely multidisciplinary and strongly multi-generational, and everybody is invited to join. We're planning to host 50 World Majlis during the 6 months of Expo, but as you know, we have already hosted 15 of them, both in the UAE and across the world. And actually later today, we will be hosting our first fully online World Majlis, and we hope you're all going to take part of that. We are looking for the contribution of our participants, our partners, our UAE stakeholders to actually join forces and co-curate it once one of these events with us, but also to recommend participants and speakers to the World Majlis that we're not maybe co-curating together. We're hoping to close our list and our program by the middle and end of November. So ahead of that, we really look forward to your ideas and contribution, either directly to our team if you're already in contact with them or through your country manager.
Great, thank you, Dr. Federica. I'm sure we're going to have plenty more questions for you, but I see a question has come in on Expo Live. And so to just elaborate a little bit more, and the specific question is it too late to apply for an Expo Live grant? And tell us a little bit more about that is Yusuf on our panel, who's responsible for the program. Yusuf.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the question. Boy, that's a tough question. That's the one question I didn't want to answer today. But yes, the Expo Live program has been running for the past 4 years, and we've been able to have a significant amount of traction from applications from around the world. And as we now get closer to the event, we are now transitioning from a program that is searching and capturing innovations from innovators from across the world to actually collating all of that information to be able to produce, right, a good exhibition and a good programming for the Expo. So at this moment, we are no longer receiving applications. However, we are looking at the possibility of, as we open our doors at the Expo, that we would be encouraging visitors who have ideas, who are entrepreneurs themselves, or who are dreamers like me, who want to have their contribution to the, into the world and solve a meaningful problem, to come to the Expo Live Pavilion, right, which is called The Good Place, to talk about your idea and see how that can become yet a part of the Expo Live program. So it's a tough question for now, but let me put in some hope in there that we can have those conversations about new additions to the program once Expo opens its doors in October 1st next year, and I'm inviting everyone to come to our Expo Live Pavilion for that matter.
Great, thank you, Yusuf. And so for those of our viewers who are really interested in learning more about Expo Live and learning more about the Good Place and what you have planned at Expo in a year's time, how can they get in touch with you, or what's the best mechanism for them to connect with your team? If you could just give us a little bit of a how-to guide, I think that would be great as a next step for our audience.
Yeah, absolutely. So Expo Live, we have a generic email. That's expolive@expo2020dubai.ae, which is we're happy to answer any questions around Expo Live. For the countries present, we encourage you to talk to our country managers, as we can share more information about what's happening today as we gather information from our current Expo Live grantees, but also all the many Expo Live applicants that came in from around the world. So our doors are open, our ears are open, and we're happy to work together, particularly for engaging in programming. I think that'll be a great opportunity for those who are interested in Expo Live to see how we can help, how we can together showcase really cool innovations from the farthest places on the earth to solve the problems that we need to solve.
Well, that's really wonderful. Thank you, Yusuf, for that additional information. We have another question that has come in, specifically with regards to the specialist program. And what does co-curate? So the question specifically is, what does co-curate mean? And how can I co-curate an event with Expo organizers during event time? So to answer that question, I'll pass the floor to Shafanu.
Thank you, Nadia. I would like to refer you to page 7 of our pack, which details out exactly what co-curation means. But in a nutshell, it's being able to conceptualize and deliver an event with us end to end. So everything from concept development, speakers, the content and case studies that we'll use within it, and to a certain degree,
also planning logistics and delivery depending on the level of engagement that a participant would like to have. And you'll be able to see we've split this up between in-kind contribution and financial contribution. We know a number of you have already reached out to us and have secured the co-curation engagement piece for certain events. So please reach out to us if there's any specific questions you have for specific events. The details are available on pages 67 and 68 of the information pack as well, on office hours and all our email addresses. So we look forward to hearing more from you about specifics and advising you on how you can co-curate events with us.
Great, thank you, Shabanu. For those who may not know or may not have seen our specialist program pack, or do not have the email addresses or don't know how to get in touch with us, just give us a quick resume of the easiest way to connect should there be interest among the international participants, our official partners, or others who may be watching.
Sure, Nadia, thank you. You can reach out to us through your country managers, but you can also reach out to us at specialistprogram@expo2020.ae.
Okay, great, thank you. Specialist program at expo2020.ae. A question has come in for Khalid specifically. Khalid, it's a business-focused question asking specifically about what the Space Business Forum will address at Expo. Could you just give us a few details and perhaps a sneak peek of what you've got planned?
Sure. Thank you for the question. So we're at the business forum, the Space Business Forum. We're looking at, as you know, many countries now are emerging into the space industry, and that automatically means that there are a lot of opportunities coming up in the next 5 to 10 years. The UAE being a big example. That the space agency announced the lunar mission in 2024. Similarly, there are other countries that have a lot of projects coming up in space, especially countries that are emerging. So we hope that our participants are gonna participate with us, co-curate, and showcasing those opportunities. On the other hand, you have advanced countries in the space industry that provide these technologies, that provide the expertise. So for emerging countries and countries that are just starting their journey in the space industry, automatically they bring in the knowledge. But the long-term vision is that knowledge stays within those countries, and you start innovating and evolving your SMEs and creating that ecosystem that creates an innovation playing field. And this business forum, we hope to showcase all of these opportunities and also showcase best practices from the advanced nations in the space industry.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Khalid. Another question that has come in is with regards to Vision 2071. So how can we get involved in the Vision 2071 series? Shabanu.
Similar to all our event series, please reach out to us, let us know which event you're interested in, and then we can have a conversation with you and work together to see how best we can have you plug into those events.
Thank you so much for that. Another question. I mean, this is really great. So I'm really happy to see so many diverse questions coming in. There's a specific question on gender, I think much the same as the question earlier on innovation. The question is with regards to why is gender not mainstreamed into its own theme week, and why is it a cross-cutting theme across all of the different weeks and programs that we have planned? And there's no one more qualified to answer that question than him, so I will pass the floor to her.
Thank you, Nadia. This is indeed a very important question. When we think of gender equality and women's empowerment, we have to recognize that we are a lot more powerful when we mainstream this issue across every thematic area that we are addressing. This gives us a much more, a wider opportunity really to address the issue of women's empowerment, to think about their participation, their leadership, their access, their protection across all of these different opportunities that we have at Expo, whether it is in climate and biodiversity, whether it is in space, as we are doing this week. And so the standalone component can be thought of in us having a pavilion. We are having a pavilion to address this issue. The Women's Pavilion will be a great space. So you can think about that as the standalone component, but really the smart thing to do, I think, and based on the guidance of our leadership, was to make the issue of gender equality a cross-cutting theme across everything that we do. And this gives us an opportunity to address the issue of women and girls a lot more than just having it addressed in a silo, in a sense, in a thematic week on its own. This creates an intersectional approach to our understanding that allows us to become a lot more effective in how we address the issue.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Hind, for that answer. Women are really at the forefront of, or the I don't know if you call it a theme or a subject or a purpose, but that it's definitely not a standalone approach. For us, it's something critical that needs to be woven into absolutely everything that we're doing at the Expo, as Hind explained so well. There's another question that has come in on the World Majlis, so I think perhaps there's a little bit airtime for you, Federica, to explain more how the question specifically is, how can I still suggest names and topics for the World Majlis? So perhaps you could just reiterate the mechanism and the methodology for international participants and international organizations, as well as the wider public who are watching, a little bit more about how you select and whether there's still space to select themes, topics and speakers. Please, Federica.
So the World Majlis conversations are really structured and designed to be taking our themes to the general public and make it a really diverse conversation around one big question that we are tackling as, collectively. We have 4 pillars, thematic pillars around World Majlis that really connect with our sub-themes of Expo of opportunity, mobility, sustainability, and connecting minds, creating the future. One of them being centered around people and how do we, so it's the notion of opportunity and how we unlock potential through education, entrepreneurship, gender equality, to also echo some of the themes that Hind has been talking about around planet, which is echoing our theme of sustainability. And we look at climate change, we look at biodiversity, water, energy resources, technologies, the notion of technology for good, and using technology serving humanity, connectivity, related very much to our theme of mobility. And finally, the notion of city and communities, which is really the connecting minds. Are mostly, so our thematic, our themes around the 50 World Majlis really build on this 4 main topic. And the World Majlis is designed to be a series of connected conversation where from one we're actually push before event time and during event are actually understanding about these 4 pillars. We are welcoming the recommendation from participants on which angles they're really, participants broadly speaking, including as well our partners and the UAE stakeholders, to really recommend areas or to suggest areas in one of these 4 pillars where there's a strong interest to be part of that. This goes through connecting with our theme and just our team and making that suggestion, and then developing, responding also to the notion what does co-curation mean in the World Majlis is actually means working together on identifying who are the best participants and speakers and authoritative voice and diverse voices that can be part of that World Majlis, and working together on framing that question. We have this very strong belief that, the nature of the questions that we ask is probably more important than the solutions that we can come up with. And some of these questions are so complex and so important that the World Majlis is really a program that's there to help us understand what the nature of the problems that we face, and making sure that in understanding this nature of the problems that we're discussing, we bring really different perspective so that the academic and the business people and the policymakers and the young students are actually all involved and represented. And part of the support is really identifying who are these voices that take place, that are part of the World Majlis, and maybe they're today not the loudest voices out in the world. They're not necessarily the people that are represented in the media, in the daily conversations, but their contribution is actually deep, meaningful, and equally important to us understanding the topic better.
Great, thank you, Dr. Federica. There will be the Space World Majlis taking place later on today, called Giant Leaps for Humankind, at 6:35 UAE time. So please tune in and explore with us our Expo Inquiry. How do we safely and productively explore new frontiers? It promises to be a very interesting lineup and panel discussion. So please do come back and join us for that. There is one last question that has come in that is specifically related to business. So a business question, specifically on how can business or a business group participate in Space Week? A broader, more general question. I'll pass the floor to Khalid to take it.
Thank you, Nadia. A great question, actually, because there are more than one way. There are very options to participate in Space Week and other weeks. And Space Week specifically, obviously, as we mentioned, you have the business forum that's going to happen at the middle of the theme week, and it's open for participation for visitors to come physically, and also it will be broadcasted online. The other option is to utilize the products, our business products that we are developing, one being the business calendar on our website, for you to filter out all the business events that are happening during that week, and for you to schedule a visit accordingly, to download the B2B app that can help connect you to other businesses that are visiting Expo for Space Week and other industries or other purposes. And also, finally, please register on the website, on the business page, because that's where you will get your information feed from across the board for business for the whole Expo period, and specifically on the thematic week, Space Week, biodiversity, etc. So please register on the website. You will get the updates once the app is live. You will know once closer to the event, the business forums are open for registration for visitors. You will know through the updates that come through the website.
That's great. And on that, that last cue of the website, if any of this has been interesting for you, if you'd like to learn more and explore more with us about our space program or any of the other theme weeks that we have planned, everything, all of our information is available on our website. And if you type into the search engine Expo Talks, you will have access to everything that we have talked about today, access to all of our documents, to our contacts if you'd like to reach us. We're ready, willing, and very, very excited to collaborate with you, to work with you, and to bring something really spectacular to life before Expo and at Expo. I'd really like to thank the panelists. The team is really energized. They can't wait to work with everybody. Our time is up, so I will pass the floor back to our moderator for the day, Anawali. A big thank you for watching and for being part of our Expo journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadia, and thank you to our panel for taking us through all of that and answering so many questions from so many engaged participants. I'd now like to invite a member of the Expo School program to tell us a little bit more about what our millions of young visitors can expect to find when they come and visit on site. We will then see the preview of an exciting animated series starting the Expo Mascots, as they fight to save a space station and halt the evil ambitions of a villainous inventor. We will then welcome on screen the Expo School Program Q&A panel, which will answer any queries you might have about how we will engage and inspire the young people at Expo 2020 Dubai. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Huda Ramadan.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm Hoda Ramadan, and I will be introducing you to the Expo School program, our wonderful student journeys, and the resources and activities available to bring space exploration to the school community. The vision of the UAE leadership is that youth should play a key part in Expo 2020. They should have opportunities to observe, learn, and contribute creative ideas and develop innovative solutions for creating a better future for our region and the world. And that's how the Expo School program was developed. So what is the Expo School program? Well, we're a team dedicated to engaging with the school community across the UAE in our journey to Expo 2020 and during the 6 months of the Expo event. We work very closely with international participants and other functional areas to inspire and empower the next generation through fun and immersive learning experiences, with our two main objectives of involving schools in their journey towards Expo 2020 and creating those memorable and inspiring learning experiences during Expo 2020 for students and educators alike. And this is all done through our various initiatives, events, and activities. And by creating those memorable experiences for all students across the UAE and now across the world, we're bringing Expo 2020 into the classrooms. And by bringing the world to their doorstep, students will explore different topics on their journeys at Expo 2020, which include areas such as global citizenship, science and technology, careers of the future, among many others, all with the aim to create meaningful and lasting benefits for our future generations and their educators. And now I'll take you through what these different journeys are. Students will have 4 different journeys or field trips that they can embark on with their schools. These curated journeys are only available through school groups, and each one provides a unique experience depending on the sub-theme. Each journey also has its own mascot or guardian who protects their pavilion and provides students with a character to connect with when they see them, either on their journeys or interact with them at our events, or even see them in our learning resources and activities throughout the year. So if we start with the Sustainability Planet, which focuses on the sustainability sub-theme, then we have the Universe in Motion, which focuses on the mobility sub-theme of the Expo 2020 site. Then the World of Opportunities focuses on the opportunity sub-theme, and the Legacy of the UAE focuses on the UAE's culture and heritage specifically for students. And each one of these students or field trips has a different entrance with a different tour, all depending on their grade and theme that they will be visiting. Each journey includes 5 main touch points, and these touch points all start with their arrival greeting with their dedicated tour guide. The tour guide meets the class on the bus and ensures all students have an identification wristband. All students will get to visit then an iconic pavilion afterwards, depending on the trip's sub-theme. Students then get to visit either a country pavilion that is self-built or assisted, with all students from primary and older getting to visit at least 1 country pavilion, and students in the high school actually get to visit 2 country pavilions on their trip. And this is to ensure that they experience as much of the Expo site as they can within their time on site. Now, countries are an integral part of these journeys, and we're continuously liaising with international participants team about involving the different countries as part of the student journeys, because students will spend anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes within each country pavilion before going off to have their lunch and then embarking back on their school buses. As you can see here, all 4 journeys are tailored differently for each age group. We start with the foundation and kindergarten students who will be on site for approximately 2.5 hours, and that's from the point of when they arrive on site to their departure back to school. Meanwhile, high school students will be on site for 4 hours, and that's to allow the 2 country pavilion visits that we just discussed. This, of course, now brings us to our main space-related journey, which is the Universe in Motion. It covers space exploration and human progress across the world. The main focus of the Universe in Motion is human progress through physical and digital realms. But what does this actually mean for students? This means that they get to explore and learn about the Emirati Mars mission. The students will get to trace and learn about the movement and progress of people, goods, and ideas within the physical and technological realms. This means that they'll get to venture across time and space to explore dynamic universe, smart machines, and technological links between humanity's past, its present, and its future. And students will also get to reflect on the ways through which people, goods, and ideas move. So what do students actually get to experience on site? Students will all come face to face with history's giants of exploration and discover the future of human progress. They'll get to see the experience of pioneers of the world exploration such as Ibn Battuta and Ahmed bin Majid and Al-Kindi, all to help them understand the movement of people, goods, and ideas over history and into the future. Students will embark on this universe in motion journey at the Mobility District within the iconic Mobility Pavilion. And this pavilion will allow students to venture across time and space and explore the UAE's mission to Mars, the Hope probe, and see what it looks like to be an astronaut. However, before we go to the next segment, we'd like to add that we're now bringing in these journeys virtually for schools, so that all schools, internationally and locally, can experience the Expo site. Next, we're going to take a look at bringing this journey and experience into the school community across the globe right now with space exploration through our learning resources, which is one of our main initiatives for student engagement, and this is from before and during Expo time. The purpose of the learning resources is to teach the future, to encourage creativity, innovation, and collaboration among students, and get them inspired by new ways of thinking. And of course, it brings the Expo experience into the classroom, and now it even brings it into the home environment, where any parent, teacher, or participant is able to access and download these resources for use with their children, the students, as well as the global school community. And every learning resource is downloadable from our website, and it includes a PowerPoint presentation, a lesson plan to follow, as well as a set of activities that students can use within their classroom or at home. All of our learning resources are actually created for different grades and age groups. So now we're going to take a closer look at two of the main resources which cover space exploration. The first one is our Mars Space City 2117, which is created for the middle school students. And the second one we're going to look at is the Journey to Space, and that's been created for the primary school students. So now let's delve deeper into this first learning resource that I mentioned, which is Mars Space City 2117. And within this lesson, you'll be able to see different topics explored and activities that students can use within the classroom. The topics progress from the very basic ideas to the more complex. So you can see here, we're going to start with a national space program for the UAE, where students will learn about the UAE's mission to reach Mars in 2021 and set up the first scientific city on Mars as part of the 2117 Mars program, along with those laboratory experiments for zero gravity that students will get to learn about. Then we cover Mars Science City Dubai, which is a lesson plan that covers the largest space simulation city ever to be built. Students will learn about its design and provide a realistic model of living on the red planet, as well as the various studies that will be conducted within this simulation that has been built. This leads us to the lesson on Hope Mars mission, which will explore the Emirates Mars mission, including the Hope probe that was launched in July 2020. Students will learn about the preparations and launching of this mission, with activities to help support their understanding. And finally, this leads us to the last topic of how could living on another planet help us to live on Earth, where students look at what challenges do we need to overcome to continue living on Earth, and how could living on another planet actually help us solve those challenges here on Earth. As I mentioned earlier, the learning resources also come with activities for the students to engage in. And within this learning resource, we can see activities such as comparing Mars with Earth, where students compare different categories such as the length of the day and year, or the weather, as well as oxygen level differences between Mars and Earth. Our next activity is from Settlement to City, where students can think about what roles are needed to make a city successful and what skill sets might be needed on a completely different planet. Now, we're going to take a look at our next learning resource, which is space exploration, which is Journey to Space. And this one is geared towards the primary level children. This resource goes into topics about the size of the solar system and how it relates to us here on Earth. So if we start with our sample topic from this one, which is how big is our solar system, where this lesson and activity in one helps students understand the scale of our solar system and how far we need to travel between planets, how far we need to travel to another livable planet, and how far we can travel beyond the galaxy as well. Another popular topic is how far away is the nearest livable planet, which introduces students to a new planet with many similar features and different features to Earth, called LHS 1140b, which has been found in a completely different galaxy. This brings us to the next topic, which is how big is the Milky Way, which is 1 quintillion kilometers across. That's 18 zeros. I had to look that one up. So within this topic, we introduce students to the Milky Way, and students get to compare the size of the Milky Way to everyday objects so that they can put it into relation to the things that they know. And finally, another activity within this pack is the best country in the world in space, which is a lesson and activity in one that highlights the UAE's mission to be the best country in the world by 2071, when it turns 100 years old. Students will look at comparing life in a new country on a new planet and what that means to the people of that new country. Now, every journey is actually linked to several international curriculums that cover different grades and cycles. And the purpose of these links is to help teachers plan and seamlessly bring Expo into their classroom. So if we look at the Universe in Motion specifically, and we look at the curriculum links within the Universe in Motion, we can see that across all the different curriculums, whether it's British, American, Indian, IB, but space, the solar system, and space exploration are all common topics. Now, these are all examples of how journeys are linked to international curriculums. And you can actually find all this information on our website, which is www.schools.expo2020dubai.com. And all of the curriculum links and learning resources have been created with the international and UAE school community in mind. And because we've provided links for international curricula, they can be used globally, so that every country and every student right now can access and bring the Expo 2020 into their classrooms. And by bringing Expo 2020 into the school community, students can look back at their experiences with Expo and be inspired and empowered to develop innovative solutions for creating a better future for the world. I'd like to thank you for joining me today. And for all the latest updates about our school's program, you can follow us on our social media channels at Expo 2020 Schools, or visit our websites to access all of the information on our initiatives and our resources that we discussed today. Now, I'd like to share a short video before we proceed with our Q&A panel. The video is an exciting animated series to drive youthful engagement with Expo 2020 Dubai. Its heroes are our Expo mascots, Rashid and Latifa, the watchful Gaftree Salama, and their super robot guardians, Opti, Aleph, and Terra. And together in this episode, they must save a space station and thwart the evil ambitions of a villainous inventor. So please enjoy.
The secrets of Salama and the 3 guardians have been revealed. Let them complete their mission. And once the secrets are unlocked, only then we'll go and seize them.
Huh?
There's a message from the Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center.
The space station?
Hello, Opti. I'm the Emirati astronaut, Sultan Al-Niadi. There's been a malfunction in the laser generator at the space station. This malfunction can only be fixed by someone at Expo. Hello, this is the Emirati astronaut Hazza Al-Mansouri. The design has been received and printed. On behalf of myself and my colleague Sultan Al-Niadi, thank you Rashid and Latifa, and thank you Dubai Expo.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, and all students who have been joining us today in our sessions.
Good morning to all of you. Some of you may already know me as the Chief Pavilions and Exhibitions Officer of Expo, but I also work on the schools program, and it's a very dear program to me. We hope you enjoyed our session and got an insight into the exciting programs that we're preparing for students. We're excited to get into our question and answer sessions, but before we do so, I wanted to introduce the team members. We have Huda Ramadan, who you heard from, Sarah Rafi'allah, Maryam Safran, and Kavisha Pancholi. Before we get into the questions, I wanted to wish all the teachers out there a happy Teachers' Day. Thank you so much for all the great work that you do and for inspiring the new generation. So let's get to it. Let's see what questions we have. All right. So the first question that's coming in is around what COVID-19 precautions will be taken for the students? Sarah, would you like to address that question, please?
So there are several journeys that we have for students, as you've just seen as part of the presentation, and we're going to be making sure that all of the operational planning that we're doing for your visits to the Expo are in line with the guidelines that have been sent out by the government. And we will also be making sure that students are only visiting if it's absolutely safe for them to be able to do so to the Expo. There's also another question. Okay. So yes, we will make sure that we're taking into account all the health and safety guidelines for your visits to the Expo. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. So yes, the past couple of months have been very critical for us in terms of planning to make sure that when we welcome students, that it's the safest journeys for the students at Expo. So let's get to the next question. Will there be a virtual experience for school students, and will it be paid? So Sarah, would you like to address that too?
Sure. So we've got loads of exciting experiences at the Expo for students that are linked to our different sub-themes, that are linked to a lot of things that you're already learning within your schools and within your classrooms. And to complement that and to build upon that, we have an exciting virtual experience that's also planned out that can be accessed by schools in the UAE as well as schools from all over the world. Now, the exact details of the program are still in the process of being decided, but we'll make sure to keep you posted with any updates regarding the experience itself or any ticket costs that go along with it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to elaborate that we're working very hard on bringing a virtual experience to complement the physical experience on site. And with the recent experiences that we've all been going through, we have been engaging with the school community across the nation online. So we've been having a lot of teacher sessions in addition to summer schools. In fact, in this week, all the schools are involved in celebrating in the one-year countdown for the Expo. So we are very much looking into strengthening our virtual experience for visitors to the Expo. Our next question is an interesting one, and it's related to countries. How can our country be part of the Expo School program? Kavisha, would you like to address that question, please?
Absolutely. Thank you, Marjan, for that question. Good morning, everybody. So countries are a very integral part of the Expo School program team, and we would love to have countries slotted into our school journeys. The way this would work is you'll have to get in touch with your country managers, and we will take it forward from there. There are very basic things that we would require from you, which is like the content of the pavilion, or how many students are you willing to take every hour, and which age group does your content suit to, and based on that we will start slotting your countries into our journeys. But we are very, very excited to have countries a part of Expo School program.
Thank you, Kavisha. And with over 42 countries who have exciting content to show during the Expo, we'd love to integrate that as part of our Expo School journeys. So the next question has to do with booking. And the specific question is, what will happen to our existing booking on the system? And when are tickets going to be sold again? I think, Kavisha, you're the right person to address this question.
Thank you so much for that question, and it's a very important question. I know a lot of schools have been asking us this question. So we are in the middle of actually relaunching our ticketing system. And for all the people who have actually booked onto our system before, we will be in touch with you as soon as our ticketing system is relaunched, and we will be in touch with you personally to shift your bookings for the new dates that you are willing to book for. So we are definitely looking into this, and in terms of when we're looking to restart the sailing of the tickets, we are right now in the planning of that, but hopefully by early next year we should relaunch our ticketing system.
Thank you, Kavisha. And as we have mentioned multiple times in our session and through our answers, please be in touch with us through our email of schools@expo2020dubai.com. You can also get regular updates on what's happening with the Expo School programs on schools.expo2020dubai.com. You can Google us very easily. Just have put into the search engine schools and the Expo, and you will get access to our website. So our next question is one around events. Are there any upcoming events for schools? And I'd like to hand over that question to Maryam.
Thank you, John. That's a very good question, and thank you so much for your interest in our upcoming events. As a lot of you may know, we have been already engaging with a lot of schools through workshops and with teachers and students, whether it was during the summer camp or recently, yesterday, we have our live Hayakum session celebrating Expo Week with some of your students. So we continue to virtually engage with schools, and we'll continue having these workshops and events throughout the school year or the academic year. One of our main upcoming event that is coming up in November is the Expo School Leaders Forum, which, as some of you may know, is an event where we gather school leaders and other members of the school communities to provide you with first-hand updates about Expo 2020 and the school program. Make sure that you're continuously engaged and updated on Expo 2020. And right now, the Expo School Leaders Forum will be hosted for the first time virtually for schools, and we are also looking into expanding the virtual event and experience for the school community.
Thank you, Maryam. So there are events, as Maryam mentioned, and always go back to our website to get the latest updates, and we will communicate with your country managers for the countries who are participating today on any event that is school related. The next question is around virtual tours and the availability of these virtual tours to international students. Huda, would you like to take that question?
Thank you, Marjan. Thank you. That's a very good question. At this time, we're in the process of planning and setting up our virtual tours. So once they are all confirmed, and we're working with the international participants to see what content we can include as part of the virtual tours. So once we have finalized all of that, and once we've finished our planning, then we'll be able to update everyone on the virtual tours and the details of the virtual tours available to both the students here in the UAE as well as the international community schools as well.
Okay, thank you, Huda. And it looks like this is one of our last questions coming in, and it's around, again, countries and how they could have access to our learning resources. So Sarah, would you like to address that?
Absolutely. So we've got over 60 learning resources and educational material, as well as lesson plans that are easily accessible to everyone on our school program website, which is schools.expo2020dubai.com. And all you have to do is go onto our website to the Learning Resources section, and you can pick and choose whichever sub-theme you're looking for, whichever topic you're looking for. And these learning resources are actually also tailored for different age groups. So if you're a parent at home and you'd like to use these with your children, if you're a class teacher, or even if you want to just explore them on your own time, you're able to do that from our website very easily.
Thank you, Sarah. We've covered all the questions that have come in. I'd like to encourage our participants to submit any other questions that they might have. And if there is no questions, I'd just like to close by saying thank you so much for participating. We've spent the last couple of years planning for something engaging for the students community, for the teachers out there, for parents, and in the hopes to prepare something of a school trip of a lifetime for the future generation, to inspire the youth of the possibilities of the future, to get them to get introduced to what countries are doing in with regards to our thematic to our themes. So please keep updated and be in touch with us. And we're looking very forward to welcoming all of you to the Expo and hearing from you and connecting with you in the next couple of months. Thank you so much for being part of this session. Thank you, team.
Thank you so much to our panel and to everyone who has contributed and watched here in the studio, at home, in the office, or anywhere else. This has been truly a global effort, and it has been a pleasure to be part of this first day of True Expo 2020 content and programming. There is so much more for you to see tomorrow, including the opportunity to hear about the incredible work that many of our participants are doing within the space industry. It's an amazing lineup from all over the world, and we cannot wait for you to learn more about that tomorrow. For now, we'd like to leave you with one final video, one which captures all the excitement of our pursuit of the dream of human flight. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Jetman being a Dubai-based product since 2014. We were so close to nailing human flight, and that's why we created Mission Human Flight together with Expo 2020.
Taking off from the ground and landing back on the ground, filling the gaps and being a complete package. At the moment we need aircraft to get us to a dropping altitude where we fly, and then a parachute to bring us to the ground. But this can take us to a point where we're autonomous and without any assistance from other vehicles.
We are thankful that Expo, they are supporting the project, and we can't wait to go further. You know, we have one goal, one dream. It's to be able to take off and land from the ground.
You can be a jetman in the future. Just you need to follow the steps. In the beginning, you have to be a skydiver. You need to have to free falling. Second thing is you have to be a pilot. PPL course.
PPL is normally an 18-month program, but we only have 1 to 2 months to complete his PPL and all his exams. It's a big responsibility, and I can see that he doesn't take it lightly at all. He's very, very focused.
There's a lot of benefits to Ahmed through training for speed riding. One is actually getting into the mountains and learning about weather, learning about energy use. And I think everybody that's been involved in this training process has been really impressed with how much hard work and dedication he's put into it and how fast he actually learned.
So we're here in China for 16 days at this amazing location to shoot Jetman. They're going to be doing stunts all around the mountain, and I'm optimistic that over the next 16 days that we're going to get some great stuff.
We are very lucky to be able to come and fly here. It's just going to be crazy to be flying with Vince in this place. The approach that we are going to go through the hole, it's already going to be insane because we are going to go literally like on top of all this. Yeah. In between those two peaks. We're to come, from there, make a kind of a hover there.
We're here in China to practice a very important milestone, which is basically we're trying to see if we can fly through a very narrow obstacle, which is very important in flight in general. Fly around and then hover mid-air to see if they can stop mid-air and stay there for a bit and then continue their flight. So China is a very important milestone.
Such a big teamwork, once again it's the two of us flying, but the engineer, they are doing behind the scene job, man. You should see the amount of work that Rashid and all those guys they are doing. It's crazy, man.
So the reason we're doing this today is because we always believed that the UAE is a nation of no limits. It is a nation that also celebrates human achievements and innovation. And Expo 2020 is the perfect stage to tell that inspiring story. An innovation with a purpose through its sub-theme of mobility. And we wanted to celebrate the relationship between human beings and technology.
اسمي أحمد الشحي، أول طائر بشري إماراتي بالتعاون مع جتمان دبي وإكس دبي وإكسبو 2020. سنقوم بتقديم أول مشروع طيران بشري مستقل 100% في إكسبو 2020، حيث يقوم فريق الجتمان الأربع مناورات في تقريبا شتى أنحاء العالم. سنة 2011 بديت كهاوي في سكاي دايف دبي، والحمد لله بعد سنة تم اختياري أن أكون أحد أعضاء منتخب دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة ومثل دولتي في كثير من البطولات الخارجية والمشاركات في داخل الدولة وخارج الدولة، وتمثيلها خير تمثيل. في سنة 2019 تم اختياري لأكون أول طائر بشري إماراتي. المحطة الأهم بالنسبة لي أنا الطيران المستقل، أني أطير طيران مستقل من الأرض وأرد أنزل مرة ثانية من بعد ما أتدرب التدريبات اللي وضعها لي فريق الجتمان وإكس دبي بالتعاون مع إكسبو 2020 ومتابعتهم البرنامج. هاي بتكون أهم لحظة لي أنا. المدة راح تكون تقريبا من سنة ونص إلى سنتين. طبعا الصعوبات التي تواجهنا في هذا المشروع أن نكون متحملين المسؤولية، بس الحمد لله فريق جتمان دبي وإكس دبي وإكسبو 2020 اختاروا لي أفضل مدربين في العالم ورسموا لي المسار الصحيح لاختيار المدربين، في اختيار البرنامج، في اختيار الناس اللي هم يوجهوني لخوض هذه التجارب. طبعا دور إكسبو دور كبير جدا بالنسبة لنا نحن كمشروع طيران بشري، لأن إكسبو منصة جدا 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 كبيرة انك تعرض فيها مشروع مثل هالمشاريع هاي، مثل تعزيز المواصلات والنقل وهالامور هاي. فنحن راح نعرض مشروع الطيران البشري اللي راح يعزز المواصلات الجوية في المستقبل إن شاء الله. دعم إكسبو لي أنا كتدريب واستثمارهم لي في مشروع الطيران البشري دعم كبير، وفي تسهيل عمليات الطيران خارج الدولة من ضمن العلاقات اللي تحكمهم مع العالم. الحمد لله دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة وفرت لنا وحكومتها وفرت لنا كل وسائل التدريب، مثل ما احنا شايفين احنا حاليا في مقر الجتمان في دبي موفرين لك كل المعدات، الطائرات، منصات الطيران المستقل حاطينها خارج المستودع. فالحمد لله المكان جدا مهيأ لهالأوضاع هذه. مثل ما استثمرت دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة في الشباب اللي سووا مسبار الأمل اللي هو الحين في اتجاه المريخ. طبعا هذه النظرة أنا أشوفها نفس النظرة بالضبط، ومتأملين أنه بتكون في مدرسة في مدينة دبي، فالجماعة ياسين يهيئون إعمارهم لهالشيء، والحمد لله من فضل قراءات الياسين نشوفها أن الناس متحمسين لهالموضوع. ستكون هناك خطوة كبيرة في تعزيز المواصلات والنقل.